Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to Tea with Amber stories, reflections, and inspirations during uncertain times. I'm so happy you're here with me today. Can you imagine it is now episode 8? I can't believe how time is flying. And again, so grateful to many of you for being here with your cup of tea. Why not? Um, and just, it's such a time. And, I've been going very deep into this experience as all of us have and asking myself, how is Tea with Amber showing up for people? Is it helping people? Is it inspiring? And all I know is that at this time, all we can do is give of ourselves without the expectation, perhaps, of, I don't know, being, it's almost like just do what you need to do. And this sweet offering is my offering to you. So it's been a very strange week for so many of us. And I think one of the things about this week has been the vulnerability of it. I felt very vulnerable, very open in a deeper way, and sort of the heartbreak of this time. You know, when the New York Times came out on Sunday with the list of 1,000 people who had died, of 100,000, it just breaks your heart that so many people have left our planet at this time. And one doesn't know what to do with that except to grieve and mourn and feel this deep connection for our humanity and for what we're going through. So the vulnerability is always there. And then there is this amazing thing that I'm seeing everywhere, including in my own life, this sense of connecting to what matters. People are talking about having being on this time of quarantine, that in fact they're seeing that there are certain things in the life before that really never worked for them, and they were now ready to really ask that question of what matters to me, what is essential to my sense of well-being, what nourishes the being that I am. Questions that we probably don't ask when we are so busy in our lives. So that I've noticed also. And then there is always this sense of the connecting. And then there is a sense that within this chrysalis cave, we are being given an opportunity now. It's an extraordinary opportunity, a gift to really, in asking ourselves the deeper questions, to begin to dream again, to know that we are dreamers, we're tellers of stories, and that in this chrysalis cave, all we're asked to do right now is to sow the seeds so that they will germinate and flower and blossom into a new story. In our fear, in our anxiety, in our impatience, we often won't allow ourselves to dream. We go into that place of desperate despair. What's the point of me dreaming? The world is collapsing. The world is dying. Yes, perhaps the world at this crossroads is dying, but it is going through a profound transformation. And so those are what I like to keep in mind as we go through this time. And over these 8 episodes, I think what I have really found myself focusing on and reminding us of is the questions we are asking. They are so critical to our sense of well-being when all of this is over and we go back into our lives in a new way. But it's the questions we're asking. In my last episode, I offered you in my personal story the 2 questions that I asked that have been a guiding light for me in the past 10 years. So let us go back to that beach, to the woman standing on the beach and looking at the ocean and asking how she is going to move into her new story. And that woman that was me 10 years ago, and reminding ourselves that what I had offered to myself in that moment was this declaration that my 60s would be my most exuberant decade. And indeed, it has been as I look back on it. The other day, I found a journal entry of mine written at that time. And so I wanted to share it with you. It's just an excerpt, and it sort of resonates deeply with that wonderful Chinese proverb: a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. How true. So on that day in the beach, I was ready to take my first single step. And this is what I wrote. What I will need now is to trust my exuberant declaration, this vow I have made to myself, a trust that will require courage and fearless commitment to what is seeking to emerge on this journey. I must listen and listen more deeply, knowing that in living my life as a sacred practice, I am coming home to myself. I must remember that when I walk the unlit paths of my longings and dreams, I carry many inner lanterns, one of which will simply be choosing to take the first courageous step, and then the next, and then the next. Even as I may not see what my future holds for me, or what the destination or outcome of my journey will be, I must be patient. I must trust. This word outcome carries danger. For when we become myopically focused on a particular destination, craving for a specific goal or outcome that we have willed to happen, we can quickly close doors to many possibilities that might be seeking to emerge, to what life may be wanting for us, if only we don't hold on so tight. We then struggle, tighten the knot, clench our fists, and close ourselves down. Our life has become a problem to be solved, and we have forgotten the mystery that it is. I now have to stay open to the wild terrain of this unfolding journey, one which will ebb and flow, spiral and twirl, inhale and exhale in a hologram of infinite possibility. Who knows where this journey will take me? Who knows who I will become? But let me remember this, that at each turn, at each crossroad, I carry the power of choice, the wisdom of choice, the vulnerability of choice. Let me have the courage to choose from my hopes and dreams and longings, and not from my fears and tired habits. Let me stay open. My life demands it of me. There is no turning back now. When I came across this journal entry the other day, I thought how resonant and reflective it is of the times we're living in today. When we don't really know what the future is, we can only sow those seeds, and we can trust that with that first step, that courageous first step, even if we can't see where we are heading, that we're willing to take that. That becomes the call of this time. So, what is the courageous first step you might be ready to take now as you begin to dream of the new life you are seeking to live into? After I left the beach on that remarkable day, I returned to my home, and my home then became my chrysalis cave. And over the next year, I began to unravel the old story of my life and began to put together and imagine the new story. Einstein once said, what you see with your mind you can hold with your hand. And so I trusted that all that was being asked of me was to imagine creatively the kind of life that I was seeking to live into. So here are just a few highlights of what I went through during my chrysalis cave. The first question I asked as it went along with what do I love and how do I contribute what I love to my world was this one. What is essential to my well being? Essential to my well being. This is talking about the essence of who we are. What is it in this vast array, this banquet of options, this banquet of so many things that we can have, many of which we don't need? What is essential to my well being? And I began to create a map. And I drew this map with all the things that I felt were essential. Some of them I scrapped because I realized, in fact, I could live without them. But here was the point: what can't I live without? So my list became very small. And each thing on that list I have lived by in the past decade. I created each thing as I imagined it to be. The other part of that question was, what am I ready to release? That's hard because you become so comfortable in your habits, and you're sort of held by them, like the caterpillar is held by its identity. But here the question was, what am I ready to release? And one of the things that came up very quickly for me was the expectation of others. Living under the shadow of the expectation of others, whether it's society, whether it's your peers, it doesn't matter. When we live from that place, we are not authentic. We are looking to compensate for our existence rather than shape our own destiny. So that became a very important question. I noticed all of the ways I moved in the world looking for approval, looking to be liked, looking for the expectation of others to be met. That is a prison that we all live in as social beings. But at this point in my life, as I was ready to tell my new story, I wanted to really shape my own journey and be at the helm of my ship and claim the sovereignty that resides here. The second question of many that I asked was this: what is my definition of success? You see, we're all enslaved by this paradigm of success and failure. How much of our despair, our disappointment, comes from the fact that we had set ourselves up for a particular way of being in the world and it didn't happen? The expectation created the suffering. And that success may never have been your vision of success. It was imposed on you. And again, I reminded myself the enslavement that we go through as members of a society which deems for us what is valuable and what is not. We live in a world where we are measured by what we do and what we have. What a terribly limiting, sad way to value our being, our divine presence. What is it you do and what is it you have? By in that time, by really asking myself, what did success mean to me? I began to explore the realm of sufficiency. I wanted to live from a place of enough because there is a kindness there. There is the capacity not to push and strive and struggle for something, unless, of course, this is not to say not hard work. Of course, there's hard work, but this is a different kind of poison that we've all taken on. So, this vision of success being sufficiency, enoughness, success here being valuing who I am rather than what it is I do. And similarly, looking at failure. What is failure? What does it mean to fail? We set ourselves up in such a small cage of success and failure that we can live in incredibly painful circumstances for the rest of our lives because we failed at one point. So I chose at that time to step out of that paradigm and create my own metrics of success. And that is what I've chosen to live by. I can't go too deeply into all of this now because we only have a little time, but let's just say that each aspect of that I had to inquire very deeply into. And over the 10 years, I have achieved, accomplished a great deal, but it has come from a very different place. It hasn't come from the need to be received as successful or stand on a platform of success, but rather from what honors and nourishes my sense of well being. The third place I wanted to arrive at was to travel lightly. We get so burdened in our life, all the possessions that we have and we're encouraged to have, all the debt we go into, all the ways we're tethered to the system, so that it is hard to get out of it unless we make a conscious choice. Traveling lightly to me, and I remember I used to say to people at that time, all I need is my shawl, my prayer book, my laptop, and my lipstick. That seemed to sort of, express the various aspects of my being. I needed shelter, a shawl, my prayer book, my spiritual sacred practice, a laptop to connect me to the world and to build my businesses, and my lipstick, of course, to adorn me as I went through life. That list was so simple, but it really, really showed me how it was possible to live lightly. And so over the past decade, that is how I live. Let me share with you this wonderful reflection from Aldous Huxley. It's from his book. Um, let's see, where is it? I keep losing. I have so many of these things in my. It's called Travel Lightly, and I'm not finding it right now. Hold on a second, because it is so beautiful. I really do want to share it with you. Here it is. Aldous Huxley from his book Island. It's dark because you're trying too hard. Lightly, child, lightly. Learn to do everything lightly. Yes, feel lightly even though you are feeling deeply. Just lightly let things happen and lightly cope with them. I was so preposterously serious in those days. Lightly, lightly. It's the best advice ever given me. So throw away your baggage and go forward. There are quicksands all about you, sucking at your feet, trying to suck you down into fear and self-pity and despair. That's why you must walk so lightly, lightly, my darling. Isn't that beautiful? Touches me so much. We've become so serious, so heavy in our lives. But when we begin to commit ourselves to a path that is lighter, more playful, more joyful, we begin to live in a different vibrational field. It's natural. So traveling lightly became my commitment. And the fourth one was to live simply so that I could simply live. That's a phrase I heard somewhere. Live simply. We live in a consumer society. We're constantly craving, desiring, wanting more and more, a devouring system that keeps us um, victimized. But when I began to really look at the ways in which I was not living simply, the ways in which I was consuming rather thoughtlessly, and sort of not paying attention to how I was moving. When I made that commitment to live simply, I literally felt unleashed, free to move in the world in this gentler, kinder way. And this is what I have learned through this journey. It is the kindness that we offer ourselves moment to moment to moment in whatever we choose to do. It is the kindness we offer ourselves and the kindness we offer each other that is going to take us into this new story. And so, living into our new dreams is very possible, even as we face the storms, the turbulence that we are surrounded by. Even there, when each of us makes this commitment to living from a different place in us, a kinder place, everything will shift because we create our reality. Last week, I'm in a wonderful circle called the Women of Spirit Circle, and we have a question for 2 hours. We answer one question, and one of the women in the circle said, "What kind of world would it be if we all loved ourselves?" There was something so exquisite about that question. Because really, in so many ways, we don't love ourselves. We're reminded not to love ourselves. We're told that we don't matter, we're worthless, we're invaluable. All of the ways in which we're held captive to this deep, profound shame and sense of worthlessness. But can you imagine what it would be like if all of us just showed up in the world loving ourselves? That would be a great commitment, a great manifesto for the new story. So let me come closer to the end of my tea with Amber today. It's a little shorter, but I wanted to share with you this very beautiful reflection that I got on Facebook from a wonderful woman called Akaya Winwood. And when I saw this in my post, I had to write it out and thank her for this profound and powerful commitment that she has made. This is Akaya Winwood's manifesto for her new story. And she's asking us to join her. Here's how she goes. I'm committed to keeping my eyes on the stars, my feet on the ground, and dancing lightly on the planet as we create new ways of being. This means I'm committed to refusing to turn away from what makes me uncomfortable, to sitting with ambiguity and lots of I don't know, to remembering that I am not well unless all of us are well. This means that I commit to the painfully joyous work of waking up, stretching into new ways of thinking and acting and reaching for liberation. It's now or never. We'll need lightweight backpacks, and there won't be any maps. We'll need great courage, and whining will not help. This journey is not for the faint of heart and will ask much of us. This will require that we take the risk of falling in love with each other and the rest of the world over and over, even when we are weary and want to give up. So come on, everybody, let's risk it. Put on your hiking boots or your ballet slippers, pack up your bravery, some snacks to share, and bring a friend or two. I'll meet you on the road. Akaya Windward, her manifesto to life. Isn't that wonderful? Joyful, brave, committed, impassioned, no longer choosing to give up, no longer choosing to hide, no longer choosing to deny or be distracted, but to show up fully in this moment as we go through the chrysalis cave, knowing that there are millions and millions of invisible hands holding us all. We are not alone. Taking that first courageous step into that new story allows us all and invites us to show up in our deepest, most beautiful, most joyful connection and presence. So, on that good note, I feel very positive right now. It feels great. I have this energy, thanks to you. Um, on that good note, I'm going to say goodbye. But a couple of things I want to share with you on a logistical level. What I go through in our Tea with Ambers, as you know, is just a little raindrop. The work is so much deeper, and I've spent. Oh, one thing I should say, I forgot to say that because I know people have asked me, but over these 10 years, so what did I end up doing? What did I end up creating from this new philosophical, deep, beautiful foundation? Um, I gave up my business world. I was in the business world for 15 years, companies that I'd run and founded. And I let go of all of that in order to focus on a new way of being an entrepreneur. So I began to take and have retreats for women in the foothills of the Himalayas, in the cloud forest in Nicaragua, in the deserts of Rajasthan. I began to do these journeys because these were places I wanted to visit and I loved, and I wanted to share it with others who otherwise would probably not go. The other thing I realized in the past 10 years is that I'm a storyteller. I never really knew that. I've always loved telling stories, but I didn't claim it. So by claiming the storyteller in me, about 5 years ago, I brought out into the world my one-woman show, Searching for the Moon. And that has toured parts of the United States. It's been overseas a little bit also, but it's been such a wonderful way to share my story, knowing that in telling our stories, we fall in love with each other and connect to one another. And then, with all of this deep, deep inquiry that I'm so committed to, I launched my visionary coaching program. That took many years of study, research, discernment to put together something that was unique to my journey. So that showed up also. And then the painter in me, I spent some time painting, and I love painting. So that and then there was a book that came out called Dear Beloved: Sacred Messages to the World. All of that happened not from the place of wanting to go out and achieve and be successful from that old model, the patriarchal paradigm. This came from a different place. It was much more inviting my creative essence, the gifts that I have come to share, to show up fully. So it's been a kind journey. There hasn't been much struggle to it. Um, it has, it's been light. It's been playful. There's been a lot of love, a lot of love on the journey. There has also been the thorns, the sadnesses, the griefs. My mother, my beloved mother, dying a few years ago, which really broke my heart deeply. My being diagnosed with breast cancer a few years back, that showed up too. But even there, meeting all of these challenges, all of these blessings with an abundant sense of love has actually given me the greatest joy, the blessing, the sacred life that I was dreaming of living into. So, if you're interested, my visionary coaching program, Seven Lanterns, Dream a New Dream, Live a New Story, something I offer because we go deeper into all of this and much more. If that interests you, why don't you just send me an email or send me a private message and I'll be in touch with you with a complimentary session. My tea with ambers have been wonderful, but you might be getting a little bored with me. So I'm hoping when I get a hang of the technology, and that's still a problem for me, as you know, I would like very much to open tea with Amber to conversations with others that I respect, admire, and love who have shown up in my life. Conversations, and so that they can tell you their stories about how they're moving through this time. So that will be very exciting. But give me a little while as I figure out the technology and know how to make it happen smoothly. So on that note, go out, go play. The sun is shining bright here, and I love you. And thank you for being with me for my tea with Amber. Thank you and goodbye.